I guess let's say that Canada and Michigan and Illinois, let's say all those states were to legalize heroin, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be in favor of legalizing heroin?
Possibly.
To answer your question, I've been doing it since like right before COVID, so we're talking like, I don't know, early 2020, I think. And it was mostly online, actually completely online, I take that back. And then recently I decided that, hey, this might be something that I want to do locally. And I first talked to Jerry. I don't know if you saw any of that.
I didn't see that one, no.
No, okay. You see the one with Vanya?
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 Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So then I talked to him, and I thought it was a pretty productive conversation. I don't know if we got a whole lot.
I only watched a little bit because I didn't want to get, I like to be spontaneous.
Okay.
You know? So I didn't want to.
Gotcha, okay. And you probably noticed that the video had, in the title, it had street epistemology.
Yep.
And I would assume you're not really familiar with that term. Okay, no problem. Here, I'm going to give you this right away. This is just kind of to remember the conversation, just a magnet. So, street epistemology is basically a method of talking with people about claims they make about reality. And it's a way to examine those claims, explore them. And typically I will ask questions that are very critical. So, I guess is that something
that sounds good.
Sounds good. Awesome. Okay.
That sounds like a worthwhile conveation.
Perfect. And if you don't mind, a lot of times I take notes because otherwise
whatever you want to do,
kind of all over the place.
Yeah, that's
sweet. So, I guess the way I found out about you, I think I've heard your name before because you're an alderman here in Green Bay, right?
Yep.
So I think I've heard the name, but I first kind of understood who you were, I guess, was that one post about, I think on the next ballot, you're in favor of having a vote on
an advisory referendum for legalizing marijuana.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Awesome. And I kind of alluded to this. I think we had a little bit of miscommunication, and I thought you weren't interested anymore, but turns out you are interested.
Oh, yeah,
so that's great.
Yeah. We can talk about anything.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, I'm absolutely down for talking about anything. If we want, we can talk about marijuana and whether you think it should be legalized, like recreationally, I suppose. Is that what the referendum would be? Is it?
It doesn't differentiate.
Okay.
It just flat out legalization. So that would include recreational and medical. The whole
any use that a person wants to use it for, they can use it for anything they want. Okay. Okay, great. I guess let's talk about that and see where it goes.
Yeah. Well, I support legalization for a number of reasons. One, I mean, we're just surrounded. I mean, Canada, Michigan, Minnesota, everybody's legal. So we're kind of a dry oasis here, and I don't think that's really practical.
Okay.
Especially when you look at the funds they're raising through the taxes of the product. That makes a lot of sense to me. My view on drugs is drugs are a problem. Drugs are an issue. They've always been an issue. It's just, for me, it's what's the most practical and humane way of approaching that problem.
Okay.
And I think it's been amply proven since the 60s that treating it as a justice issue, a judicial issue, the war on drugs has been a huge failure.
Gotcha.
We haven't made any difference. So I think if we legalize it, you can regulate it, which I think it needs regulation, and you can then tax it, and some of that funding can go to addiction programs and awareness programs and so on. So I think it's just more practical to legalize it and get a hold of it and try to steer it in a more productive way than to just go after it with the police and throw people in jail, and it just doesn't seem productive. It doesn't seem productive to the loss in our society of productive workers. They're sitting in jail.
Gotcha.
And we haven't changed anybody's behaviors. I mean, everybody still who wants to use drugs is using drugs. Their being illegal hasn't stopped them.
Okay.
So, or hasn't stopped. They might have stopped a few, I'm sure, but
Okay.
in general, it's been very ineffective. And I think if you legalize it, I don't know that. Well, we can look at the states that have done it,
Okay.
and we can learn from them,
Ah.
and how we can do about this. For me, the biggest problem with legalization is that the feds still will consider it illegal, and they don't honor the state's prerogative to make it legal.
Yeah.
So that still creates a lot of illegal activity. And and those who are trying to be legal, they got to behave. I mean, they can't go to the banks. They can't, they got stuffed mattress. It just makes it a lot more problematical and messed up.
Yeah.
So I think the best way to legalize is for a federal, or at least the federal honoring the states and not, raiding them,
Yeah.
except for, illegal drugs.
Gotcha. Okay. Wow, you got a lot of reasons, and that's awesome. I think of all my time talking with people, I don't think anyone's given this many reasons for a truth claim. So, thank you for giving all your reasons.
Well, to me,
Appreciate
it just seems practical and a better way of handling things, a more humane way of handling things,
Okay.
a better way to treat people and to be productive with people's lives.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, if there's a hole in my logic, or I've got some facts wrong, I want to hear about that, because then I'll change.
Awesome.
I mean, I wasn't always for legalization.
That is exactly what I want to talk about.
Yeah. So,
okay, great. So I'm just going to kind of repeat back what I'm hearing.
Mhm.
So, so the first reason was we're surrounded by legalization. So we got Canada, we got Michigan,
Minnesota.
I think
Illinois.
Illinois. There's like medical is legal or something.
I can't remember if it's both.
I think it's just medical.
Might be just medical in
Yeah,
Illinois.
I think.
Could be.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't remember. I thought it was legal, but I could be wrong too. I didn't pay that much attention.
We got fundraising from taxation of marijuana. That was one of your reasons. We got the war on drugs was a failure. It wasn't very effective. So maybe I think you're suggesting kind of reversing that because of its ineffectiveness. There's a loss of workers, and you said, I think that went hand in hand with, you said it was inhumane
Yep.
to put people in prison,
Yep.
right? Okay.
Yep. And the city has decriminalized it. I mean, a few years back, I proposed decriminalizing it, and I worked with the police and with our city attorney, and we lowered the fines considerably and everything. And I just saw that as part of the process, I was pushed it as far as we could go. And then just a few months ago, Alder Galvin, who's a retired police officer, reduced the fines even more, so that it's, pretty
Gotcha.
pretty minimal.
Okay.
So we've decriminalized it about as far as we can go.
Gotcha. And then I think your final reason was we can learn from states that have legalized it. So does that mean like looking at what they've done and whether it's a good or bad thing?
Right, and some of the unintended consequences that they've faced,
Okay.
and how we can maybe avoid those, or what we can do to prepare for those.
Gotcha.
I mean, I'm not proposing a utopia here. There's going to be problems. Drugs are a problem. It's just how do you want to handle it?
Right. Is there one particular reason that it stands out and is like your main reason, or are they all equal?
No, that pretty much all bundles in.
equal?
There isn't anything that really drives my.
Sure. Okay. Let's go with your first one then.
Okay.
We're surrounded, so we got Canada, all the other states around Wisconsin. I guess let's say that Canada and Michigan and Illinois, let's say all those states were to legalize heroin, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Would you be in favor of legalizing heroin then?
Possibly.
Possibly.
I'd want to see how it works out for them.
Okay.
You know,
Okay.
and there are some push for that now. I think in Seattle and in Canada, there is some push to do some of that.
Really?
Yeah. So when it comes to drugs, I think the more we can legalize, regulate, and tax, the more practical we're going to be. So in general, I'm open to whatever we can make work. And so if other places do this, I'd want to watch and see how it works out, you know? And depending upon how that goes, I could get behind that.
So if, let's say, Canada were to make heroin legal, and they just saw like a whole bunch of deaths, let's say, a lot of people overdosing, it was just a terrible mess, you know, lots of tragic loss of life. I take it you wouldn't be...
No, I would think that
okay.
I would say what they're doing is wrong, ain't working.
Okay.
So if legalization is a way, the way they're doing it ain't the way.
So I think
So-
your reason isn't necessarily just that we're surrounded, but we're
No,
surrounded...
that's just one factor. And it's actually the smallest factor. If I had to pick out the least factor, that would be it. Because, like you say, if you're surrounded by something you disagree with, that's not going to make me agree with it. It's going to make me say, well, how do we handle this then? Which there doesn't seem to be much of that. For those who want to keep marijuana illegal, they don't really seem to have any kind of plan to address. I mean, I know people who have moved from Wisconsin to Michigan. You know, I mean, we're losing our workforce. You know, we're losing our population. You want to grow. You don't want to be losing people.
Sure.
So,
Okay.
I think that's just one factor, and it's the smallest factor. But I think the fact that they've done it, and they haven't said, "Oh my God, what are we doing here? This is not. This is a disaster."
So we kind of have to be surrounded by success. If we were
Right.
surrounded by failure, that
Well,
you wouldn't. be
Right,
in
and
favor.
I would suspect they would change course too.
Well, yeah.
Probably.
Seems likely.
Seems like it. Yeah. So, like I said, I think, you know, like legalizing heroin. I think heroin is, you know, all drugs. There's a problem. But look at, you know, it's not legal now, and people are still using heroin.
Yeah. Right.
So
it's still a problem. Right?
It's still a problem. So if we legalize it, will we be able to handle the problem in a much more practical, humane way? If that's true, I'm for it.
Okay.
If it's not true, well then, no.
Okay. Okay. I guess. How do we find that out if we can handle it in a good way or a bad way by legalizing it? Like in any drug, I suppose, not just heroin, not
Right.
Marijuana. Just how is there a way we can figure that out before we actually go ahead and do that?
Well, like with marijuana, we do have states that have done it, so we can look at how they, you know, right? And now there's some that are talking about heroin and so on, so we can learn from them if they go forward with it.
Okay.
I think on the whole, if we do have a drug that has been very devastating in our society is alcohol. You know, and there was a time that it was illegal.
Right.
And there were some benefits to that people don't really acknowledge. I mean, accidents on the job went down, domestic abuse went down, hospitalizations went down during that time. There was some productive good from it, but it didn't outweigh all the bad that was happening from making alcohol illegal. So I think if you look, you know, we have a drug, and how have we handled alcohol? Well, we've taxed it, we've regulated it, and it's an issue in Green Bay. Alcoholism is an issue in Green Bay, but I don't see anybody saying we need to, you know, outlaw it. I think that wouldn't solve the problems that we're facing in Green Bay with alcohol. I think that just makes it more difficult to get a handle on. Everything goes underground. It's more difficult to deal with.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotcha. All right. Since being surrounded is the smallest factor, I think we should probably move on to a factor that is more and a bigger reason for you personally. So, I guess the next one that you had said in chronological order was fundraising. So I'm assuming taxing.
Taxing. Yeah.
Yeah, the sales, and then you said that money could be put towards addiction programs. Okay.
And maybe schools or any number of things. You know, we could do something productive with it instead of it going underground. And
gotcha. Okay. I guess, is that a big enough reason to legalize it? I guess all other factors, if you were to take all the other factors away, would this be a big enough reason to legalize? Or?
I don't know, because my decision is based on all the factors.
All the factors.
You know.
Okay, sure.
You know, so would it? I think it's a significant factor.
Okay.
You know, I mean, it seems to be more practical to tax it and use that money for something productive, including addressing the problems of that drug, than to have to pull funds from other things to address those problems, and all that money just is funneled in underground illegal activity. You know, I mean, what's the? It just doesn't seem practical and productive.
Okay. All right. So I guess this is a bigger factor than being surrounded by success, I guess you could say.
Right. And I don't know what success, you know, I mean, like I'm
Sure.
I have not dived deeply into this, like, you know, because I'm not really in a position to make a decision on this. Like, all we're doing, I wanted to do is an advisory referendum.
Right,
you know?
and let the people decide.
Right, the people decide. They're the ones who need to do the deep dive.
Yeah.
I know enough to know that I can support it, but as far as that, working out all those little details,
Gotcha.
that's the decision makers who are going to have to make that decision need to do their job.
I'm wondering what your confidence in this is. I kind of have a scale. So, like, let's say you're not confident at all, that meaning you don't think it should be legalized. Somewhat confident, kind of in the middle, confident, could go either way. A super confident, or like I'm 100% confident, definitely should be legalized.
I think I'm 100% confident on this.
Got
you know, I think, like I said, it's not a utopia. We've got a drug problem. We're going to have a drug problem. What's the best way to address the drug problem? I think this is it, and I haven't heard anything that makes me think otherwise. So until that happens,
Okay.
you know,
I guess.
so I'd say 99%, because I'm always going to be 1% open.
Gotcha. There could be something that you missed, right? Okay. Gotcha. I guess you mentioned that this is the best solution. What are the other solutions? Is there just the war on drugs versus legalization, or is there something else?
There's decriminalization, you know, which we've done,
Okay.
and I think that is a step. You know, that's fairly productive.
Yeah. Is that enough?
No, I don't think so, because you're still losing a lot of potential. I mean, you're not taxing, you're not regulating.
Gotcha.
You know, and I think there's so much in these illegal drugs that if we could just legalize it and regulate it, just cleaning all that crap that's added would be a big step in the right direction. And then also, you know, I've been told, you know, today's marijuana is not like the marijuana of the 60s, you know. They've really refined it so that THC, you know, is really strong. Well, we can regulate that. Just like alcohol, you can only have so much proof and everything, you know. So if it is that the THC content's too high and that's causing a problem, we can regulate. No, you gotta sell it at this level of THC content, you know. So
Okay, got it.
it just seems to be.
Okay. I'm wondering if there is kind of another possible scenario that you haven't explored yet.
No, maybe. I haven't heard one.
And you can tell me if this isn't. I mean, I think it's kind of where we are right now. So we've decriminalized it, which I mentioned, but I think there might be another factor, perhaps. I don't know.
Well,
so we got like CBD oil, right?
Yep.
I mean, I don't think that's a replacement.
Shouldn't be. It's not
right?
meant. It's not supposed to have any THC in it.
Exactly. But then we have the full spectrum hemp oil, which has a little bit of THC, not enough to cause similar effects to marijuana. Right. I don't think that would be a replacement. But then you have I forgot what it's. I think it's Delta 7.
Oh, there's some kind of synthetic, I think, right?
No, to my knowledge, and I could be wrong on this, but I think that it's an extract from hemp that is similar to THC. But it still has the same effects as THC. I'm wondering if, and I believe that is legal. I see signs around all over for it. I'm wondering if just having that in a legal status is enough to really get the illegal marijuana that's currently illegal off the street.
Yeah, I heard something about that, and someone explained it to me, and I couldn't follow it.
Okay.
So I don't there's something about that is slippery.
Slippery, okay. Okay, sure.
So if someone can think, I mean, if it's THC, how is it not illegal? Because that's what the thing, I don't quite follow.
I think it's chemically very, very similar. Similar enough to have the same effects, the same benefits.
Right.
If there's drawbacks, I think the same drawbacks.
Yeah.
But it's just
but that then to me is no different than legalization. It's basically the same thing. You just,
I guess it may not even matter if we legalize or don't legalize at this point if there's something that's so
well,
similar.
You still have a lot of illegal activity. You still have a lot of product being sold that isn't regulated and isn't taxed. And the stuff that's not regulated, they put all kinds of crap in it lots of times, fentanyl stuff, and that's just 10 times worse,
Gotcha.
So it just seems, if this other THC is legal, is it regulated? It sounds like it's more of a pure THC. Maybe you'd think if you want to get high on marijuana, that'd be the way to go. But how available is it? Or I don't know. I haven't been able to track that down enough. It does seem like a slippery thing to me.
Okay.
But I think regulating and taxing are a big part of addressing the illegal activity.
I guess that's something to consider, or at least voters to consider when making a decision, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or at least a factor. Okay. Wow, I think we've had a pretty good conversation here. I guess. I don't know that I have too much more to add. Do you have anything to add?
Well, I wish those who were against legalization would be more honest in their arguments.
Okay.
I just feel like they're not. I mean, what is the argument for not doing this? When I raise these points, what is the argument to knock them down? I find that very disingenuous and very dishonest. I think the people who are against it are, and I can only have my suspicions here, but historically, I mean, the whole war on drugs started in the 60s, and it was a ploy by the Republican Party, especially Nixon, to hammer on minorities and hammer on hippies, hammer on liberals.
Right.
It was a hammer.
Gotcha.
There wasn't any health issue or anything else, though obviously drugs are a health issue. I mean, there were people who were, the effects were not good,
Gotcha.
but it wasn't, it was sold as law and order, and to hammer liberals and to hammer minorities and everybody like that at the time who supported. And is that still what's going on here? We want to hammer minorities. We want to hammer pot smokers, because nowadays it's not just liberals smoking pot. Back in the 60s, that was the perception.
Sure.
That's not true anymore.
Right.
So do we really want to still hammer people?
Gotcha.
I don't know. I wish I could get into an honest discussion with people who oppose this.
Gotcha. On that same note, if you were to get into an honest discussion with someone who was on that other side, what could they say that would get you off that 99%?
I don't know. I haven't heard it.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's what I'm waiting to hear. That's why I want that discussion. I could be wrong. I'm not so arrogant to say I'm. If there's an argument out there, I want to hear it so I can.
Okay. I might have. I don't agree with this argument, but I'm going to propose it to you.
Yeah.
What if someone were to tell you to say, hey, look at this particular region that legalized marijuana, and there were all these traffic accidents and deaths because of the legalization.
But is that true?
If it were true.
If it were true. See, now we're going. See, that's not an argument.
Right.
I want a fact. We got to argue with the facts. And if someone can bring forth those facts, then I'd say, let's say there was actually that region. I'd say, well, how are they? Why is it here and not elsewhere? What's going on? What can be done? And maybe there are areas, I mean, there are dry areas in the United States now that where it's not legal to sell alcohol.
Right.
You know, maybe a particular area, the people in that environment just can't handle it and they should go dry. I mean, I don't know. There could be,
Okay.
you know, it's not all a broad paintbrush, one for all, you know. It could be some variation, some variability, or it could be this area needs to be doing something different than what they're doing.
If someone was to present evidence, and it might be kind of the scenario I suggested or something entirely different,
Right.
if they were to have these hard facts,
Mm-hmm.
would you be willing to change
Oh yeah,
their confidence?
if my argument's proven to be unsound, definitely. I'm not gonna.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I mean, I stand on my argument because I believe it's sound.
Okay.
I haven't heard anything to knock it down,
Gotcha.
which is why I find it so frustrating when I get into an argument or debate on this issue and people are not honest with me. Because then,
okay.
I'm willing to admit I could be wrong. But you got to be honest with. You got to give me something real.
Gotcha. I'm curious. I'm really curious. When you've had these conversations before? Okay.
A little bit.
What do they usually say? What is?
They see it's different. It's circular.
Okay.
And it's not. It's hard to pin down, and that's why I feel it's just so dishonest.
Okay.
You know.
Well, what is?
They don't want to be pinned down.
Okay.
They don't want to address my facts. They completely ignore them.
Okay.
You know what I say, and then they spin something, and it's difficult to follow, and it's circular, and it's not a productive discussion. It's not a discussion. It's almost like they're trying to escape the discussion.
Okay.
I feel like.
Okay.
You know, that's the feeling I get, and maybe I don't know if they're just not articulate enough or what. I don't know. You know, but it's just been very frustrating, not being able to have an honest discussion.
I feel you. Okay. All right. Is there anything that could get you from 99% to 100%?
Probably not.
Okay.
I don't know if I'm 100% anything. The
Gotcha.
world just doesn't work that way. 99 is pretty high.
Yeah. Agreed. Absolutely agreed. Okay. All right.
You know, because like I said, I didn't always feel this way.
Oh, good.
You know, it was an
Changed your
evolution
mind. Okay.
of learning and thinking. I remember
Gotcha.
back in, was it the 70s or 80s, and I was going to school, and I was in a class, and a woman talked about, you know, well, we should legalize drugs. And everybody thought, what? You know? And she didn't present too many arguments. It wasn't a discussion that went long. I can't remember, I don't even think it was really the topic of the discussion. Somehow we got on a sidetrack there. So at one time I would have thought that was preposterous. You know, I did think that. I thought, legalize it. But then that started the journey. I started thinking, you know, and then I learned more, and through discussions, through learning more, reading history, finding out things.
Gotcha.
And this is where I ended up.
Awesome.
And I, you know, maybe 10 years from now,
You might
through
flip
discussion
positions.
and reading more, I may end up,
Sure.
who knows where.
Okay. Great. I really like to talk to see people who are willing to change their position if they learn new information.
Oh, I'm 66. I've changed my position. You know, I mean, I started out politically. I started out a blue-collar Democrat, became a moderate Republican, and now I'm a flaming liberal.
Okay. Gotcha.
So, I mean,
Okay. Yeah, I think now might be a good time to wrap it up.
all right, well, thanks. This was fun.
Yeah, it was. It was really great. I really appreciate you talking to me.
No,
Hoping to have more conversations.
yeah,
I think-
that's all I look for in an interview, is to have a discussion.
Sure.
You know, if we can have an honest discussion, I'll talk to anybody. I don't, you know, and even if they're directly opposed to me, that's even better. If we can have an honest discussion, that's great.
Yeah, I like both.
Uh-huh.
I think asking challenging questions with a view that I agree with this view, sometimes can be difficult to ask
Right.
challenging questions.
I know.
So
I agree.
this is a little different. Usually I am talking to someone who has a position that is the opposite of mine, and this is a little different.
Mhm.
But,
Yeah. It's like you don't want to get caught in an echo chamber, but it's what you think, and what you need is someone who opposes you.
sometimes, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
for sure.
that's great. You know, I love those conversations.
Great.
So, but this was good.
Yeah. Any last questions for me?
Yeah. Hi, Mom.
Okay.
How I ever knew.
All right.
So,
And end the recording and be on our merry way.
okay. Yep.